wrestling got weird in 2020. I mean, the whole world was weird in 2020. Global pandemic, total lockdown. No one knew how to handle something like that. We did our best and we came out on the other side. Some of us adapted better than others, though. The Hurt Business, for whatever reason, flourished as the main heel faction in the Thunderdome era of WWE. During lockdown, the group held 4 different championships 7 times. Though, I guess it would be important to mention that one of the titles was the 24/7 championship. That was actually the first one the group won when Shelton Benjamin beat R-Truth in a hallway or some shit. But the Hurt Business was formed and things were looking up for MVP and Lashley. This group had some heat to it, and for good reason. They had a cool look, often wearing expensive, fashionable suits, and in the ring, they were some of the best in the company. All they needed was a push, and they were destined to be a top draw.
You hit this next level stride during the pandemic, which is insane, because like so much of what you guys do is feeding off of live audiences. Yeah. And the fact that a lot of you were able to excel during that period, did you have to rethink how you were presenting yourself, or how did it work performing in an empty arena?
We did it. You know what? First of all, I think the guys that did it should be commended.
Yeah.
The guys that did it should be the ones that are highlighted right now.
Yeah.
Because during that pandemic, there's a lot of things happening. You know, people weren't able to go on the streets. And I was flying every single week, doing shows in that building. The Hurt Business, we were like most of the show. We were doing everything that they asked us for, and it was a good group that I was in, because it was real. I mean, me, MVP, Shelton, Cedric, we had so much fun with it. We were running the show, and it really didn't matter. And we talked about it all the time. We said, it don't matter if there's nobody there. We know the crowd. We know that they're there. We know that they're behind things. MVP, he's very vocal, and he stays on his social media, so he knows, the feedback that we're getting. So after the show, we were always going out to a place, and we would all sit down and have something to eat, the 4 of us, and we would just discuss how we can get better. And we were always thinking about, it was like, man, when we get back in front of a live crowd, oh man, they're gonna go crazy.
What was that like?
I mean, happened.
I've been telling people on this channel to subscribe, and they won't.
Yes.
What can we do about that? Can you help me out? Maybe if you tell them to subscribe, they'll do it.
Threaten them. I'll threaten them for you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. You don't have to do it until you're cursed.
The first real championship was won by Lashley at the Payback Premium Live event in the summer of 2020, the WWE United States Championship, and he would hold that title for 175 days. Furthermore, he would only lose the title in a triple threat match where he was not the one pinned. This was good booking for him by anyone's definition. Even better that it would set him up for a run as the WWE World Champion that same night, when he would go on to help The Miz win the title from Drew McIntyre, on the condition that The Miz give him a title shot. Shortly after Lashley won the United States Championship, Cedric Alexander would join the group as well, and he would start teaming with Shelton, and the two would go on to capture the Raw Tag Championships by beating the New Day at the end of the year. The Miz made good on his word, and Lashley got his shot at the title and won it in March of 2021. This was great for Lashley, but it would signal the end of the Hurt Business, as it was decided that the group wasn't something that they wanted associated with the new face of the company.
Bro, to this day, when I spoke to Vince and I asked him why, his comment was, we've gone as far as we can with the Hurt Business.
That doesn't seem accurate.
Yeah, and that was I've had quite a few conversations with Mr. McMahon, and that was the first time that I could look at him and go, okay, now you're blowing smoke. Like that's bull. But that's also when I was like, okay, I don't see much happening here. At least right now, but
with the amount of talent that you guys had in that group, even if you just turn on one another, oh my goodness.
Hey, again,
You're like, I know.
again, you're preaching to the choir.
Like you and Bobby and you and Cedric, like MVP is just brilliant.
I don't know. Like it really is like the biggest head scratcher ever.
Shelton and Cedric would return the titles to the New Day after only 85 days, and Lashley would turn on them, and this would lead to the Hurt Business disbanding, and a feud would start between Shelton and Cedric for reasons. They would reform at the end of the year, but only for Shelton and Cedric to put over the Usos on a pre-show and to have Lashley put over fucking Goldberg. And then Shelton and Cedric would begin to feud with Lashley. For reasons, I guess. There was yet another reunion teased in 2023, but that shit was over before it started. Shelton was released from his contract, and Lashley and MVP would depart later in 2024 when their contracts expired. Many have suggested that WWE dropped the ball with the Hurt Business, but here is why it looks like they'll do much better in All Elite Wrestling. All right, so you lived through the Hurt Business.
Right.
By you, I mean Kellen Craven. Professional wrestler. Extraordinary human. What can you tell me about MVP? Let's just assume that I live under a rock, which I did, and I know nothing about MVP. Explain MVP to me.
So MVP, he debuted. I'm trying to think of the exact year. I didn't do like direct research. It was mid 2000s.
Okay. That tracks.
His character when he first debuted is that he was the largest sum, like the largest contract that they'd ever signed. It was the gimmick. They paid him more money than they have ever paid anybody else in history. And that was his gimmick coming in, is that he was the MVP. It's like they had to sign the MVP of the wrestling world, when in all reality, here's this dude who people had never seen before. And I think even his first few matches were like schmosh matches, like wrestling some dude who barely had a name, or that was in like a plain black singlet, and he just like crushed him in one move. Yeah, making all this money. Watch me beat these jabronis up. He had all the heat. People hated MVP when he first started. They started chanting Power Ranger at him because of his outfit. It was so good. Everybody hated him. He started to really turn the corner to be, because he had like X-Pac heat at first, where like people actually wanted him to go away. Like they did not want him on TV. People were like flipping the channel during MVP segments there for a little bit. No one dug what he was putting down. And
was this intentional, or was this just like something that happened?
It was intentional, because I mean, clearly he was a heel character, so they wanted him to be as pretentious and awful as possible. But the way he was booked early on, I think they unintentionally turned him into a bathroom break.
God, yeah. Let me throw this list at you. Mm-hmm. Wrestler, criminal, heister, martial artist. And then MVP got into WWE after all that.
Correct, yeah.
I don't think people understood this.
Right. He actually had a really good interview on Talk is Jericho, where he goes into in depth of just how deep into like the criminal underground he was, and how wrestling really saved him and got him out of that situation, gave him a new focus and a new outlet.
All right, so MVP, would you say that his entry into wrestling was a bit botched? Because
it's hard to say.
He seems a lot cooler than what he was portrayed. I mean, the suit does suck.
So if you look at your little pictures here, that you got pulled up, the top left is a little bit like it was when he first debuted, except it was bright purple.
Yeah,
like
I remember.
Pinkest of purple.
I wasn't watching, but I remembered like seeing pictures of MVP or stuff like that and being like, I don't want to watch.
See, that's what they wanted, but they almost succeeded too well.
They did too well. They really gave off that vibe. I was just like, oh, if this is wrestling now, I'm not interested.
I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
But he was really good. And I don't know if he was necessarily really good off rip. I think that he was very green when they first signed him, and so that also did him no favors. they kind of put their eggs into his basket early on and bet on him to develop into a star.
It was an interesting yet very boring time of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The back end of the Ruthless Aggression first few years of the PG era is around where he came in. So it's where a lot of people fell off.
So it's interesting, though, that I don't want to be mean. Because, look, when new people come into AEW, I know that they're going to be my favorite people in 6 months. It's just going to take some time. And I've acknowledged that about myself. And I just try to adapt to it faster because I don't want to feel like an idiot. Feel like this MVP guy, he's just a washed up WWE guy. But that's kind of my thought, is like, this is kind of a has-been WWE guy who came in at the wrong time, whatever. I never cared about. I get a feeling, but very cool guy.
Yeah.
Very interesting individual.
He could write books upon books upon books about his life, and they would all be so interesting. He is one of the most colorful characters inside and outside of the ring that you can possibly see.
That's what I hear. And I guess that's one of my problems with WWE and why I was never drawn to watching that after a certain age, is because they would never really open up this stuff. The MVP was playing a character. You wouldn't get to know him by watching WWE. I'm hoping that in AEW, this is one of the things that will be explored, is the actual man behind the character, because he's a fascinating individual.
Imagine MVP, very similar. I think that's kind of why these guys formed a kinship and kind of band together. I could give very vague descriptions and you wouldn't know if I'm talking about Shelton Benjamin, MVP, or Bobby Lashley.
Okay.
Just because they all come in blue chipper athletes. The WWE wants to make them stars. They take steps to make them stars. Then for one reason or another, they just never really get there. Lashley kind of got there in recent years. His run with the WWE Championship, he kind of got pushed to the main event scene. But even then, it was like, it's almost like he didn't fit, and it makes no sense because he does fit. He fits more than anybody than we've seen with the belt, just as much as anybody that we've seen with the belt in recent years. But for some reason, whether it's the way they booked him or what have you, they could just never find a way to make it click. So just like misused, missed opportunity, should have been a bigger deal than they were. That could really sum up all three men in this group.
I hear that. And Bobby Lashley in AEW. Is this a potential AEW world champion that we're looking at?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If they succeed where WWE failed, and it's doable because TNA succeeded where WWE failed. Bobby Lashley was a megastar in TNA, an absolute monster among men. And so I know AEW can do it, and I know it's doable. It's not a Lashley problem. It was the fit in WWE and the system and the people, whatever it might have been. It was not a Bobby Lashley problem. And so coming to AEW, it's another opportunity for a company to take advantage of him. I mean, he can be a Brock Lesnar-esque dominant force that just wins multiple titles and can really take this company to places that, I mean, even you might not even realize they could go.
Yeah. So a lot of people are going to look at Bobby Lashley in AEW and just say, why isn't this going to end up just like Brian Cage?
And it's really hard with a company like AEW and the track record that they have of hiring anybody the moment they don't have a job, of bringing them in just for the sake of saying that we have them, and then watching them go to Ring of Honor in a month.
Yeah. I mean, it took Brian Cage quite a long time to become Ring of Honor champion. So at least he's got that going for him now. Is that a track that Bobby Lashley would have to worry about, ending up on, or something that we would have to, is that a possibility? Or do you think Brian Cage wasn't coming hot out of the WWE?
Right.
So we got to keep that in mind with Brian Cage. It's more of a physique thing. People really are convinced that AEW doesn't want to put the title on one of these massive, for lack of a better term, WWE guys, big physique guys. They don't seem to do that. Would they break that habit for Bobby Lashley? And
if they are intelligent, yes, they should.
Yeah.
Because he is a once in a lifetime style talent. And I think that's what's going to set him apart from Brian Cage. I love Brian Cage. I think he's very good. But even with his TNA run, he never moved the needle quite like Bobby Lashley did. He was never the guy the way Bobby Lashley was. So with a guy like Brian Cage or some of these other people who sign over, we don't have the track record to show that they can be the guy. And so it's hard to really have faith in them. And some people surprise me. Some people they sign and they do way better over here than you ever thought they could have done anywhere else. And then other people, you're just kind of like, oh, whatever. But Bobby Lashley, I feel like, has already proven in other companies that he can be the top guy. Well, the number one monster on your show, the force to be reckoned with, the one that everybody should try to be taking out. And I think AEW needs a wrestler like that. Like you said, they don't put the title on guys like that. And the ones that they have that are of a similar build are already pigeon-toed into some other Ring of Honor trios thing. Like they're not putting them in main event spotlight. When's the last time somebody of Lashley's physique, Lashley's build, had an AEW world title match?
Well, here's something to point out, too, that these other guys don't have. Lashley's a former WWE champion. World champion. I struggle to think of another ex-WWE champion that has come to AEW that has not been AEW champion. Has there been any other ex-WWE champion that came in and hasn't taken that belt? Moxley? Jericho, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson,
Adam Copeland, I guess.
Adam Copeland has not had his run, so there's that. Who knows if he was on that track before his injury? I don't know.
I'm not sure either. But Christian Cage was world heavyweight champion, not WWE champion. But even he is booked very favorably, in AEW.
Yeah, he's had a few title runs. With the TNT Championship, most memorably, amazing title run. So I think Bobby Lashley might break the stereotype of this perception that AEW doesn't book big men properly. I think it's more that AEW. I think that they look for people that move the needle more than they look at big physiques. They don't book like Vince McMahon. A big physique isn't enough to get you to cut the line on, people who have proven that they can hold that down, that position, and perform well in it. Like so many other WWE champions that have come to AEW and had a run with the belt. So I would almost, now thinking about it, I'd almost expect that to happen with Lashley.
And to add to your point, I feel like AEW also books people who know who they are.
Yeah.
The people in WWE, like the Hurt Business in WWE, struggled because people were telling them, this is what you would say, this is what you would do, this is what we feel like you should do, this is how we feel like you should present yourself, this is what we feel like other people are telling them how they should feel, whereas AEW is very much what do y'all want to do, how do you think you should be, let me see what kind of ideas you have. Some people flounder with that kind of freedom, but I feel like the Hurt Business is going to thrive with that kind of creative freedom.
Shelton Benjamin.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I know nothing of this man, but you know everything. Please,
I love Shelton Benjamin, dude.
Explain Shelton Benjamin to me and all the other unwashed masses who have somehow missed this man's career.
Oh my gosh. So Shelton Benjamin was a tag team wrestler. He was in the group Team Angle, Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team. They had a few different names. They were basically brought in to be Kurt Angle's little understudies whenever he was running hot on SmackDown with the WWE Championship. They were all Olympic athletes, him and Charlie Haas.
Oh, wow.
They were super talented. They're so good. Go back and watch some Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin tag matches from that ruthless aggression era of WWE. They're just throwing down with everybody. It's so good. And he got his chance to be a solo star with the draft. They drafted him to Raw, and they kept Charlie on SmackDown. His very first night on Raw, he beat the World Heavyweight Champion. He pinned Triple H.
Oh, wow.
Second night on Raw, he pinned him again. He did it 2 weeks in a row. So they clearly saw something in Shelton Benjamin, wanting to make him a top guy. And to his credit, he almost sniffed it. You can see in your Google images you have pulled up here, he has multiple mid-level championships. He might be one of the greatest mid-card wrestlers in the history of WWE.
Wow.
So talented. If you ask any wrestler from that era of WWE, who is like the most gifted in the ring, who their favorite to work with, like 7 to 8 out of 10 would all say Shelton Benjamin. Everybody knew inside and outside of the business that this kid could be it, and he should have been it. But it never materialized beyond the mid-card scene. Even a trip down to ECW and dyeing his hair blonde for the gold standard gimmick, nothing really seemed to get him into the next level.
Okay. He had a glass ceiling.
Yeah, and there's interviews with him where he will admittedly say he didn't campaign for himself. Okay. And I resonate with that because I feel that way about my own career as well. To be a good wrestler, you have to be a good self-salesman. Okay. You have to be able to campaign for yourself. And if you're not that pushy, if you feel like your in-ring ability should speak for itself, people will walk all over you. And I think that is the story of Shelton Benjamin's career up to this point, of him just trying to be a good guy, step on no one's toes. I'll get my opportunity if I just show up, don't miss any days, and put on phenomenal matches, keep having great moments. I'll get my day, and his day just never came.
Now, I heard what Shelton Benjamin was explained to me as having a similar career trajectory to Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
Where he left, reinvented himself on the indies, came back. However, unlike Drew, it was not taken as well when he came back.
He came back with the brand split, the rebrand split, where they tried to do it again because they merged the brands back. They stopped doing Raw and SmackDown. Well, then they decided to do it again with Shane running SmackDown with Bryan Danielson as his assistant GM while he was retired, and Stephanie and Mick Foley running Raw. And to pad out the roster, because at the time they were very light. They were very, very light on talent. They had weeded out some of the ruthless aggression talent. They didn't have a whole lot going on. And that's whenever they reached back out to Shelton, brought him back into the fold. And I'm sure that in his head, he had done a Drew McIntyre. He had gone off and became a star on the indies. He was ready to come back and show everybody that he's the complete package now. He's someone you could put in that light. But in WWE's head, they just brought back a vet, and he was going to lose, and he was going to win, but it was never really going to matter, and he was never really going to do much.
It's interesting that you say how light the roster is at this time, because when I was doing the research for this video, I found that all 4 of the guys in the Hurt Business are basically stuck in feuds with the same people and each other for their entire run, and it looked very samey on paper.
Yep. Once they all got put together in the Hurt Business, because that group actually started without Shelton Benjamin in TNA as the Beatdown Clan. It was just Lashley and MVP, and then like a revolving door of other people. They had Kenny King in there. He was one of the founding members. Loki was in it for a minute. Samoa Joe was in it for a minute. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's where the group started, and they were able to do what they wanted, and that's where Lashley won a bunch of world titles, and they were kind of the group over there, kind of similar to what Mox is doing now. They ran TNA for a few years.
Interesting.
And when some of these people came back to WWE. MVP and Shelton had a good relationship, so he's trying to pull him in, and WWE wanted to try to catch lightning in the bottle and bring that group back under their umbrella. and it just never clicked.
Cedric Alexander.
Yes.
What can you tell me about him?
Not as much as the other three. I am familiar with his game.
Is this the younger guy in the stable that they would try to get over? Okay, this is the guy they're trying to get over. Okay, and he got left behind.
Yeah, they
Cedric
brought him
Alexander's
in.
left behind, man.
They signed him to pad out the 205 Live roster. They did the Cruiserweight Classic, and he impressed. By the end of his match, people were chanting, "Please sign Cedric." Like, they were very, very sold on him, and so they offered him the deal to really build up that 205 Live roster, which is another
205
thing you need to go back to watch. Some of those other 205 Live matches are insane, but it's just like no one saw it.
You get stuck.
I'm having to go back and watch it.
We've talked about 205 Live on this channel a few times and what kind of black hole that was of talent.
Yeah.
A black hole of talent. Plays. A black hole of talent, but it was never getting out of there. It was just stuck. Amazing things happening that no one was aware of, right?
Right, and he was definitely one of the hidden gems of that brand, and to bring him up to the main roster to try to get him involved in the mix, they put him with the Hurt Business and
specifically
paired
with
him up with Shelton. Yep, him and Shelton were a tag team to Lashley's main event spot, to MVP's more of a manager role. But him and Shelton, they were really good and nobody cared.
So what went wrong with the Hurt Business?
They were never treated like a real threat.
They were now. I know that they were a big deal during the Thunderdome lockdown era, but and from what we've discovered in this video is that as soon as Lashley got the world title, the WWE Championship, the Hurt Business was basically done.
Basically, yeah. I think one of the first things he did was kick Shelton and Cedric out.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the first things he did when he won the championship. So it's just stupid writing. Definitely cut them off at their knees.
Not Bobby's idea. This is WWE, guys. Remember, these guys don't do what they want to do. They do what they're written to do, right?
Right. Which, like I talked about earlier, I think that's been their big issue in WWE, is that in TNA they had the freedom and they thrived. In WWE they had superstructure and micromanaged, and they floundered. Right. Now they're back in AEW. I feel like with that freedom, we're going to get more TNA style group. And I'm really excited to see what they can come up with. But also back to that WWE era, that pandemic ruined some very good things.
Yeah.
And I think they could have been a victim of the no crowd pandemic era.
Another thing that they might have been a victim of is you got another big stable in WWE at the time. That had main event written all over it, and that probably didn't want to be compared to this. We're talking about the Bloodline.
Yeah.
So it's very similar gimmick, kind of a, tough guys in nice clothes and suits, talking kind of mafia situation.
Yeah, and, I think that was the second run, because they basically gave him two runs. Lashley won the title, he kicked everybody out, he lost the title. They don't know what to do with Lashley because they never knew what to do with Lashley. So they just gave him Shelton and Cedric back. Here you go. You can have your faction back. But by the way, we're doing the same thing on the other show with the Bloodline. So good luck standing out.
Yeah, kind of not going to work out with that going so well.
No, yeah. They were chopped off at the knees right and left. And that really sums up the Hurt Business's run. It's just everywhere they turn, there's someone throwing a chop block at their knee when they're not looking.
I mean, the good news for them coming into AEW now is I don't think we have anything like that going on in AEW. They're unique.
Absolutely. They are going to stand out. They are going to do things that you haven't seen before. And you're already getting a taste of it with Shelton Benjamin's 2 one-on-one matches he already has. Yeah. Those matches have gone viral with the clips of him kicking Lio Rush's head off and just throwing him across the ring. They're making them look monsters. They're letting them do what they want to do. They're letting them stand out. They're letting them shine. And they're going to get to do it in a company that does not have competition in the form of a similar faction. And I'm beyond excited. I'm more excited to see them right now than I ever have been.
I have a prediction when it comes to Swerve versus Shelton Benjamin. I think this is the debut tonight of Bobby Lashley.
I think so.
Rumor on the internet.
Neither man can afford to really lose this one.
Right. And rumor was on the internet that Bobby Lashley was supposed to debut at Wrestle Dream and come out and beat down Swerve. So I think that happens tonight. That's
I will definitely be watching.
If I'm correct, the footage of it is playing over this right now. Swerve is being beaten down as we speak.
Lashley just running through people.
Running through him. Because like Shelton can't lose.
Right, and I don't think Swerve really can take a loss right here either.
I mean, disappointing. All right, and it's definitely going to be Lashley beating down Swerve because they've already that's already been thrown out there. Unless they're going to just go crazy and Lashley's going to come out and beat down Shelton and break the internet. It's possible.
Oh my God.
It's nuts.
That would break me.
We're like, what the hell are you doing? Wait, is this WWE?
Yeah.
I don't think, after knowing the history of the Hurt Business, after looking into it, the last thing I want to see is the Hurt Business fight with each other. I feel like the world has seen enough of that.
It's like a Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy feud. It never ends well.
I don't want that from this reboot. I don't want to see that. That sounds like it did not go anywhere good for anyone involved.
They're better together.
And I'm excited to see it. It's news to me, so thank you for telling us about it.
Of course. Definitely love putting over guys who should have already been over by virtue of a company doing the right thing.
He is I and I am him, and I'm the undisputed trend Matt Taven. And this dork behind the camera, some Melvin told me to say, grave diggers keep on digging. Whatever that means.
I am AEW wrestler and Ring of Honor tag champ Mike Bennett. And remember, grave diggers keep digging, but not the monster truck. Even though my son really likes that monster truck, I kind of like Son of a Digger, and so I'm going off on a tangent about monster truck because my son really loves monster truck, but we're talking about the YouTube channel, so make sure, grave diggers, keep on digging, baby.
But it's Mark doing one happy private party saying what up to the grave diggers and doing your thing, bro.
Alright, like, subscribe, and watch another video, or be cursed. If you're cursed, that means the grave diggers will keep digging your graves, so you probably want to do it.